Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the new Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. This launches at Sephora on October 31st. It's available now on her website. It's $67, comes with 18 shades, and I am just so excited for this release because she really only releases one large palette every single year, and it's usually in the fall time. Last fall in October we had the new Nudes palette, and then the year before that in 2017 she released Desert Dusk in September. I'm not sure when Rose Gold was released, but basically she spaces out her large palette releases for once a year, which I actually really love. Even some of the higher end brands now are releasing things really often, and it's kind of different with brands like ColourPop and Makeup Revolution because even though they're releasing stuff constantly and it does get annoying, at the same time their palettes are like 15 bucks and it's more like fun makeup. You know, if you see a color story you like, you don't really have to think too hard about it. But when you're dropping $67 on a palette, you really want to feel like it's special, and spacing out the releases every year like she does just makes it feel like more special and like she really worked hard on it. And I did watch her video about this palette. She said it actually took 2 years for her to create it, and that she was over at the lab in Italy like mixing the shadows and, you know, adding more things to them to try to make them really unique and interesting. Like I know in the new Nudes palette she had those shimmers that almost felt like a cream formula, and they had the chunks of glitter in them. They were really interesting and unique, and they were so smooth and so foiled on the eyes, and she does include at least one of those in here. She also this time has a new glitter formula that's actually safe for the eyes. It doesn't say anywhere that it's not, so I'm assuming that it is. And also it's not like a regular pressed glitter. I'm actually wearing it on my eyes today. It is beautiful. But first I'll just talk about the palette really quick and show you some swatches, then we'll get into some looks that I created with the palette, and then at the end I'll show you some comparisons of other palettes that I found in my collection as always. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. Alright, so first up let's talk packaging. So this one comes in a plastic package, unlike the previous palettes which were cardboard. It has a really nice mirror inside, and then the shades are just so gorgeous. I really love color stories like this. I love these softer tones. I think they go really nicely with my skin tone in general. It's a really nice mix of warm and cool shades. So I'll go ahead and read you what it says on the Sephora website, and we'll take a look at some swatches. It says, the Mercury Retrograde palette features a cosmic blend of 18 shades and textures balancing cool and warm tones to deliver infinite possibilities. This palette is filled with easy-to-use combinations of dusty coppers, rosy pinks, and golden taupe with pops of purple and blue. It features 9 buttery mattes, 6 high-shine creamy metallics, 1 glitter powder charged with silver sparkles, and 2 sheer multi-reflective shadows for an out-of-this-world glow. So there are definitely a few things about this palette that make it really unique. The matte shades just are her normal smooth blendable formula. They're really pigmented, really easy to apply to the eyes. I think she has one of the smoothest matte formulas I've ever felt before. And then when it comes to her shimmery metallic shades like this pink, this gold, and then these 3 down on the bottom, they are so unique just because they're not just one color. When you look at them either on your eyes or like in a swatch, you can really see that there are multiple different colors within them. So they have a lot of depth to them, and they look different depending on what angle you're looking at them at. So they're really, really cool. And then the glitter, like I said, it's totally different than any glitter I've ever seen in any palette before. It's not just a bunch of glitter sitting in a pan or even suspended in a base. It just feels like basically a shimmer shadow that has glitter in it. So it's really held together nicely. You don't need glitter glue. There's almost no fallout with it either. It picks up really well either with a finger or even a brush, and she does have a brush set which I'll show you in a second that has a cool applicator for that. And then you have these two right here, this purple and then the deep teal, that almost feel like cream shadows. They're so soft and smooth, and you could almost use them by themselves, just a one and done swipe. Like, they're so amazing. And then this shade called Supernova, it looks kind of whitish in the pan, but it has a little hint of blue-green to it, and this is the type of shadow that you could apply on top of any of the other shadows in this palette and kind of change the way that they look. And same thing actually with the glitter shade. It seems like no matter what color I apply either one of these two, it goes together. So they're really, really versatile in that way. And like I said, it'll totally change up the look that you're going for. So I'll just go ahead and show you some swatches of some of the shades in this palette. And all of these shades are very, very different from each other, but you can see that if you top it with glitter, it just changes the whole look of it and makes it look like just a totally different shadow. So I love that those are in there as well. I think they're really cool and make the palette interesting. Alright, so before we get into the looks, I just want to quickly show you the brush set. This is $44 and it's also going to be available at Sephora on 10/31. and you get 3 brushes, but they're double-ended, so it's kind of like getting 6. And I use these to create all the looks that you're gonna see, and I think it pretty much gives you everything that you would need to create any type of look. So the first brush is Pack and Buff. So this one has more of like a flat brush to pack eyeshadow onto your lid on one side, and then on the other side it has kind of a domed buffing brush. And then the second one is Contour and Blend. So this is the contour side, and you can see like it's kind of a smaller brush, which is great if you have hooded eyes for getting up into the crease. It's also really dense. So I was using this to put shadow into my crease first. And then on the other side, you have this fluffier one just to blend everything out. And then the last brush is Sparkle and Shine. So this one has another flat brush, but it's a little bit shorter. I was using this to apply shadow to the outer corner of my eye and just to like smaller areas. And then the other side is a sponge tip applicator. This one is great for using that glitter shade. I used this to apply the glitter all over my lids, and it picked it up perfectly. So that was really great. All right, so now let's get into the looks. And the first one is more of like a pinky lavender look. So I started out using the shade Libra in my crease, and this one is a really soft lavender pink matte shade. It is so beautiful. I absolutely love this color, and it blended so nicely. It's so super smooth on the skin as well. Then I picked up the shade Supernova on my finger, and this one in the pan looks like it's kind of a reddish copper color, but it also has some gold in it as well, depending on how you look at it. It's one of those colors I was mentioning that just has a lot of depth to it. And then I'm topping that with the shade Cosmic, which is another similar shade like that, but this one's more of a lighter pink. And I didn't want to use this shade alone because it is really light, but layered on top of Supernova, it just gives a little bit more richness to it. And then on my outer corner, I'm using the shade Vortex. And again, I'm just putting this on the outer corner of my eye and then blending it out towards the center for some added depth. So here's the finished look, and I know I've mentioned in the past that I don't love pink eyeshadow on me, but I feel like these aren't necessarily really pink. They're more of like a lavender pink, so that seems to work a little bit better with my skin tone. It doesn't make me look like I'm ill or sick or anything. I just love the way this came out. I think it's so beautiful. All right, so then for the next look, I decided to go more like warm and golden. So I started out using the shade Karma in my crease. And this one looks like a warm mid-tone brown in the pan, but when you put it on your skin, it almost turns kind of like peachy at the same time. So again, not what I was expecting just looking at it in the pan, but I think it's such a beautiful color. Then I applied the shade Frazzled, which is another one of those really interesting shimmery shades. And this one looks bronze in the pan, but when I apply it to my lid, it looks more of like peachy bronze. It has a little bit of gold in it. It's so beautiful, and it pairs awesome with that crease color. And then just like with the last look, I'm gonna apply a lighter shade on top just for some added dimension, and I'm gonna use the shade Gold Glitch right in the center of my lid, and this one is really stunning. It looks gold, but it also has a greenish shift. It has a little lavender in it. It's such a unique and gorgeous color. I love it so much. So here's what that looked like all by itself. It's just a really nice, warm, golden look. But I also want to show you how you can use that glittery shade Nebula on top of just about anything, and it looks great. So I applied that over top of this look, and here's what that looked like. And you wouldn't necessarily think to pair like a glittery bluish silver color on top of a warm look like that, but somehow it just goes together, and it just looks so interesting and unique and cool. So that's just one example of how you can also use that Nebula shade. Next up, I wanted to use some of the turquoise shades in the palette. So I started out with the shade Haze, which is a matte, kind of minty green or seafoam green. Not a shade I would normally go for, but it just has that really pretty kind of mermaid vibe. It reminds me a lot of summertime, actually. And because I absolutely love mint green mixed with gold, I decided to use that shade Gold Glitch again, and I'm putting that all over my lid. And like I've said many times before, this is just one of my favorite color combinations. And then I took the shade Mercury, which is that really deep turquoise shimmer, and I applied that from the outer corner of my eye back towards the center, just leaving the gold on the inner corner. And then here's the finished look. This one came out a little bit messy. I was kind of getting tired at this point because I did these 3 looks back to back. So I'm sorry that it's not the best, but I just really wanted to show you guys the colors more than anything. I'm not super skilled with eyeshadow yet, and I'm still learning. So if you're new to my channel, please excuse how messy this looks, but like I said, I just wanted to really show you guys the colors on the eye. And then last but not least, I'll show you the look that I'm wearing today. So starting out with the shade Off Balance, this one is like a dusty pink shade. It almost has a little hint of gray to it, and I applied this one to my crease. This is just a really nice matte. Next, I'm taking the shade Hot Mess, which is kind of a purpley red shade. and I'm putting this on the outer third of my lid and just blending that back towards the center. And even though this is a deeper color, I didn't notice any patchiness with this or with the other deeper shade in the palette either that I used in the first look. I feel like they definitely blend really easily. And for my lid color, I'm using that glittery shade Nebula and just applying that with the sponge tip applicator brush. And it applies it really well. I love the triangle shape too because it helps me get it right into the inner corner without making a huge mess. And as I said before, I love that this doesn't have a ton of glitter fallout or anything like that. And it seems to stay on the eyes really well. I haven't had an issue with it. I've worn it a couple of times already just testing it out. So here's the finished look. And again, this perfectly illustrates how you can use that Nebula shade with so many different things because it looked good with the warmer kind of golden coppery colors. And it also looks just as good with these more lavender purpley pink shades too. So yeah, I'm just having so much fun with this palette. All right, so now let's take a look at some comparisons. As you guys know, if you've been following me for a while, usually when a new palette comes out, I'll go through my collection and look for things that are similar. I did find two really affordable palettes actually that have a similar vibe to this one, but they're not an exact dupe by any means. And even if some of the shades are really similar, I'm mainly just talking about a color dupe versus a formula dupe because they're totally not the same at all. But I still think it could be helpful if you already have these palettes in your collection already and you think that they might be a little too similar, or if it's just not in your budget to spend $67 on a palette, but you like this particular color story, then one of these might work out a little bit better for you. All right, so the first similar palette I found is the Profusion Festival palette. This one is $13, I believe, and Profusion has a really nice formula, especially for the price. So I'll show you these two side by side, and you can see the Profusion one does have those turquoises in it. It also has the pinky purple shades, and it also has some of those warmer golden colors. So here's a look at the swatches. I had to break them up because these palettes are so large I couldn't fit them on my arm. So here's the first set of swatches, and I definitely see a lot of similarities between these two. Again, they're definitely not exact dupes, but I think you could create pretty similar looks with these. Here's the second set of swatches with more of those warmer tones. And again, they are similar, but definitely not exact dupes. Another palette I thought was kind of similar is the So Jaded palette from ColourPop. I feel like I almost always find a ColourPop dupe when I'm looking through my collection. And again, the thing that jumped out at me the most from this palette was that it has those golds. Again, it has a couple of purples, it has the turquoise shades. So I'll show you the swatches. I think this one isn't as similar as the Profusion one is, but you are still getting a similar vibe. And I think that you could create some similar looks once the shadows are on your eyes. They might not look all that different. Alright guys, so final thoughts on this palette. I think it's really interesting, really unique. It's something different in a sea of all the same stuff that we're seeing all the time. And mainly I think because of the textures of the shadows that you're getting in here. It's not that the colors are particularly unique. I mean, I don't actually have a lot of palettes that look like this, but I just showed you two that kind of have a similar vibe. But I think what sets this one apart, aside from the really good formula, is that really interesting new glitter. I've never seen a glitter like that before. And also just these shimmer shades that have so much depth and richness to them and that kind of look different depending on the way you look at them. So I do really think that those things set this apart from other palettes. Not to mention that it was just fun to play with, and I like that you can create these softer, kind of more pastel-y looks, but you can also kind of go for the warmer tones, the red, the gold. I would say if there's one thing I can anticipate people not necessarily liking about this palette is that it's mostly full of mid-tone shades. You really have just kind of two lighter tones right here, the matte ivory and then the supernova shade. You also only have two deeper shades, and this one isn't even really that deep. It is on my skin tone, but not on everybody for sure. And then you have this deep plummy purple, but that's basically it. You don't have a black. I personally never use blacks in palettes, so I don't care about that, but I know some of you guys might be missing the black in here. But I think everything else in here kind of falls into that mid-tone range, and again, it might be different depending on what skin tone you have. I usually use mostly mid-tones. I'll use mid-tones like this green or this pink or this one or this peachy color for my crease color, and then I'll also use a mid-tone on my lid. Typically, I'm only using a really dark color like these two down here in the outer corner just as an accent. Same thing with the lighter shades as well. So personally, I don't mind as much that there's only a couple of the really light and really dark shades because I usually use the mid-tones more than anything, but you could feel differently about it, so it's just one thing that I did want to point out about this palette. But that was really the only thing that I could anticipate people feeling disappointed about with this palette. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this down below in the comments. Just what are your thoughts on it? Are you planning to buy it? Are you not planning to buy it? Do you think it's unique and something different compared to all the other palettes that are coming out these days, or do you think it's not? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.